Hey guys, King of Charmanders here, and today I bring to you a very special video. This is the new best melee super weapon, the MrBeast Sword and Shield. This video analyzes a new exclusive collaboration weapon, the MrBeast Sword and Shield. We will do a deep dive analysis and determine whether or not this new weapon can be considered a super weapon. So what I define a super weapon as is one of the best weapons in the game that has high damage and mechanics that sets them apart from the rest. First, we're going to start off with the cost to grade 10.5 max the MrBeast Sword and Shield. Here we have all the materials needed to grade 10.5 the MrBeast Sword and Shield. Per the data, this weapon does not require as many monster parts as other weapons, making it one of the cheapest weapons to max in the game. Seriously, only 4 and 8 total of two species that aren't even subspecies. Final boss mobs are elder dragons, and a lot of the materials that you see that are on the field, that you see the most, you can obtain them on the field or take out small monsters for them. However, it still requires 90 Wyvern gem shards and 25 weapon refining parts like many other weapons. So even though it's cheaper on a lot of the other skill, you still need rarity 6 and of course the weapon refining parts that you can only get from buying the season pass or waiting every day to get 1 per day with the weapon refining parts. Next up, we're going to review a lot of numbers, starting with the MrBeast Sword and Shield versus the rest of the Raw Sword and Shield monster types. So here you see we have every other one in the game currently right now. You have the MrBeast Sword and Shield, Nightshade Paolumu, regular Paolumu, and Barrieth. Now I'm putting Nightshade on there just because it has a raw value. I know it's not a pure raw damage type, but it has high raw damage numbers. And as we see per the data, the MrBeast Sword and Shield is the best raw sword and shield. It's the strongest one. It beats out the Paolumu one, which is the next best one, by 11%. So it's definitely better. It also has an incredible 30% affinity at grade 10 like the Kulu-Yaku weapons. So for Kulu-Yaku, you get a 30% affinity if you upgrade it to grade 10.1. And the MrBeast Sword and Shield has that same affinity bonus, which is absolutely amazing. And now that we covered Raw, how about Elemental? This is the MrBeast Sword and Shield versus the rest of the Elemental monster types. So if you review the data right here, as you see per the data, the MrBeast Sword and Shield is the lowest out of all the Elemental weapons. However, this is Raw and Elemental combined. So unless there's some special mechanic, etc., there isn't really a way that when you combine Elemental values and Raw values, that a pure Raw weapon is going to beat them. To be fair, this is to be expected because there is no special mechanic that could make the SNS overpowered. So in order to actually flip this or make this like really like the sword and shield or melee weapons go above on this chart, it would take a special skill or absolutely broken damage values to flip these results. And I'm going to go over something like that later on, like a special skill, mechanic, etc. And we're going to review that next. And here's this comparison that I was talking about. Here we have the Blak Diablos Bow versus all other elemental bows except the Kushala bow, because obviously the Kushala bow is going to beat that, and we're going to review that later in this video. The Blak Diablos Bow easily meets the criteria for a super weapon because it's able to beat out the rest of the weapons that aren't an Elder Dragon monster type. So here you see, because of that level 3 charge doing damage level 4, you can calculate the time saved as compensation per Monster Hunter MHN.quest. And then you see the average damage is higher than every other bow in the game. It doesn't, Mizutsune is like hanging in there by 1%, but like it's just so powerful. And this data also takes elemental weakness into account, so even when you're using it against an elemental weak monster, the Blak Diablos Bow is still better. And the Kushala bow will obviously beat out Blak Diablos Bow when used against a monster with an elemental weakness, which is why I'm not going to put it in there because that's just unfair comparison, and we can put that in another comparison to make it more accurate. Despite this, the Blak Diablos Bow is still the undisputed king of raw weapons. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is. With that charge level 3 again at damage level 4, it's just that's the mechanic that considers and makes the Blak Diablos Bow and Kushala Bow super weapons. Moving on, we have the MrBeast Sword and Shield versus the super weapons. So this analysis compares the MrBeast Sword and Shield practical theoretical damage versus the Blak Diablos Bow and the Kushala Bow. Per the data, the Kushala Bow is still the best elemental weapon against its weak counterparts, and the Blak Diablos Bow is still the best raw weapon. It's just that damage level 4 at charge level 3. The thing is, ranged will always overtake melee as long as that mechanic exists, so it's kind of an unfair comparison. Melee versus ranged, range has a mechanic that can create more super weapons just based off of that. However, it's worthy to note that it's impressive that the MrBeast weapon is this powerful in consideration that the weapons it's being compared to is an Elder Dragon and one of the strongest subspecies in the game. So the other two weapons are extremely difficult weapons to get. That's because you have to beat two of the hardest monsters in the game. But for the MrBeast Sword and Shield, you just have to finish a quest and get the rest of the materials. So more on that in a bit. And now we have the ultimate test, the MrBeast Sword and Shield versus the Blak Diablos melee weapons. So since the Blak Diablos weapons are the strongest raw weapon type in the game, this would be a fair comparison. So what's the best? So the most powerful monster type as far as melee, even though it doesn't have a sword and shield variation, let's compare that one to the MrBeast Sword and Shield. Per the data, Blak Diablos barely beats the MrBeast Sword and Shield by 5% more damage on average. Wait, what? Just 5%? Yes, 5%. However, this is actually a lot more even than it looks, because this result is entirely dependent on whether or not the negative affinity or positive affinity from both weapons proc during a hunt. For those of you that don't know, when you have affinity, if it's positive, you get plus 25% damage. If it's negative, you do minus 25% damage. So we have those data in those two blocks below here. Blak Diablos, when you have that negative crit damage and you put it in, you get 1993.5. And when you do MrBeast with a positive crit, you get plus 25% damage, which totals you up to 2727.5. So in a battle, the MrBeast Sword and Shield can actually overtake Blak Diablos melee weapons depending on how much the critical hit damage procs in a hunt. Blak Diablos would do less if the negative 30% affinity procs too much. If it procs, you see that's a huge damage jump from the Blak Diablos weapons. That's why a lot of people are hesitant to build them. Despite that, on average, yes, they do more damage. However, it really depends on how a hunt goes. If you have that positive affinity, there's a huge difference as you see with the MrBeast Sword and Shield. So it's way more even than it looks, and depending on the hunt, the MrBeast Sword and Shield can actually blow the Blak Diablos one out of the water. Now that we compared damage, remember that I said a super weapon is something that has a unique mechanic and does high damage? Well, we have high damage checked off. How about unique mechanic? And this leads us to the MrBeast weapon unique equipment skill. So the MrBeast weapon has its own unique equipment skill called MrBeast Challenge. And it's at level 1, which maxes out at grade 3. So when you forge it, it's already maxed out. And the description is, great things will happen after using certain attacks. So an animation will occur at the end of the Sword and Shield's Falling Shield Bash and its special attack. However, that's not all it does. It does extra damage. And this is called the MrBeast Bomb in MonsterHunterNow.quest. So MHN.quest, when I looked at the motion values, I saw this in there and I was like, wow, that's actually really cool. So you can spam Falling Shield Bash and just have this bomb thing go off, or you can do it in between when you're safe in attacks. That's really cool.
Oh, a rare drop, no way!
I promise you that scene has relevancy because we are talking about monster drops. And now that brings us the ultimate question. How the MrBeast Sword and Shield is a super weapon. So the MrBeast Sword and Shield is on par and can surpass the most powerful raw subspecies monster in the game, Blak Diablos. This meets the high damage requirement for my super weapons. What makes this weapon stand out the most is that it's much cheaper to build than the regular weapons, as we see when comparing a subspecies to an update boss. I'm not going to put Elder Dragons in here because that would be an unfair comparison. Obviously, Elder Dragons, they have their own set of rules because of the fact you need a lot of materials, but those materials are really hard to get because you must go kill said Elder Dragon with group, and then you can't get them as fast as you would taking out monsters on the field. So, not fair comparison. The update bosses, Mizutsune and Zinogre, they have come out on the field at one point. So, it's likely we're going to have them on the field again, and it's a good comparison for this one. The MrBeast Sword and Shield does not require any subspecies, update bosses, and Elder Dragon interception materials to upgrade. None of that. Yet it still is on par or surpasses Blak Diablos, which is the strongest raw melee monster type. In fact, the two monster types that you do need to build it are relatively easy to defeat. It's Tobi Kadachi and Anjanath. You got the flying squirrel and the dinosaur. You can take out both of those very easily, so it's absolutely incredible. You don't need to go even to Diablos or Rathalos or Rathian, the harder ones, later in the game. You got these two. And the MrBeast Sword and Shield also has a unique skill that adds hits to its attacks. It is the strongest budget raw melee weapon in the game with its own unique damage skill. Thus, the MrBeast criterion meets the requirements to be called a super weapon. Hopefully this guide helps you decide if you want to build the MrBeast Sword and Shield. I'm definitely going to max mine out. In fact, I still need like 16 Anjanath rarity 4. Why is it like this? Like I have everything else but like one specific one, and I've killed so many dinosaurs, and I'm like, you know what? I think there might be one thing I'm missing, and I'm totally right. So I'm going to be hunting a lot of two-legged dinosaurs during that event, the drift smelting event, come tomorrow. I might do a little bit of hunting later today, we'll see. In addition, I will be releasing build videos on this new super weapon coming soon. So it is a super weapon. It does meet all the criteria, it's extremely powerful, and again, extremely cheap. So if you're a newer player to the game, if you're not gonna go over poison, if you're not going after Blak Diablos Bow, you can go after this thing. So again, it's extremely powerful. If you're Sword and Shield main, this weapon is definitely worth building, and I'm definitely going to build this and max it out. Please do me a huge favor, like, subscribe, and comment for the YouTube algorithm. Good luck on your drops, good luck on your grinds. Hopefully you're having a lot of fun and you're looking forward to the next collaborations coming in the future, because I am. Good luck on your grinds again, and I will see y'all on the next video.